And good morning. How's everyone doing today? Boy, I'm glad to have such a great audience back after spring break. Courtney, good to see you. Deerica, good to see you. Ashley Nicole, good to see you. Rasha, Sarah, Imani, great to see everybody. So, did we have good spring breaks? Who had a good spring break? Did somebody go somewhere that was fun? Did somebody see a show? Go to a fun amusement park, visit family. Who did something good? And which of you folks had to just work over spring break? It's always nice kind of to reset. You know, the cool thing about spring break is that means that the semester is getting close to being over. We are over halfway through this semester. Yes. I don't know about you, but I'm always excited. Halfway through a semester, I can see the end coming. Andrea Nicole went camping. Wow, that was fantastic. Cosette, I had a great spring break. I had way too much fun, but now it's time to get back to work. Ooh, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know, Andrea. It's definitely pollen season. Where did you go? What campground did you go to, Andrea? Was it close to school? Was it away from school? Where was it? I'd be interested in hearing. Um, no, Dearica asks a great question. If you'll notice, there is no Thursday link in our course materials this week. I am not going to have a lecture on Thursday this week. I don't do a ton with the sexuality chapter. I'm just going to give you a quick talk today to tell you one of the things that I find thoughtful and interesting, and then we're going to just pass on over this chapter. But I am going to lecture today about sexuality. That's a great question. That's a great question. So Andrea went towards the beach, but not completely to the beach. Okay, cool, cool. Wow, look at the good crowd here. All right, fantastic. Anybody have any questions? Anything you need so far? Anything that I can do for you today? If so, let me know. Go ahead and type in the chat bar. Can we get another break? That's a heck of a question. You know what, Gustavio? Yes, we do not have lecture on Thursday. There you go. That's all the break I can offer you, my friend. But yeah, I appreciate your question, man. I'd like another break too, maybe two more breaks. There will be a quiz. There is a quiz, but it's only covering the first week's stuff. And let me see. Looking in there. Yes, the homework is there this week. Yes, it is. I just looked. So there is a quiz, Rasha, but only one chapter. Okay. All right. So today, chapter 10 is about sex and gender. And, you might think of sex and gender as maybe something that is more for a biology class or more for a sociology class. But we're going to talk about it just a little bit in psychology today. And I want to give you a lesson that I learned several years ago that I think is very important. Uh, I am doing great. There will be a Thursday night webinar. Does it say the homework's due Sunday and not? Let me see. Let me look at that. It does say Sunday. I don't know why I said that. Oh, you know what? The date is right, Deerica. It is March 25th is Friday. I don't know why I typed Sunday in there. That's a great question. I made a couple of typos. Rasha already caught me because I had this lecture going off at 10 p.m. tonight. And so I have a couple of typos in this. I'll have that fixed, Deerica. It's due by Friday. Okay, great question. Great question. Yes, Sarah asked the question, will there be a Thursday night webinar? Yes, I do two webinars a week so that everyone can get into the webinar. So I am going to do two webinars. So come tonight if you like to come. come Thursday night if you like to come. Those are all great questions. Any other questions before we get started? Good questions. And De'Eric, I am sorry about the typo. Man, I am the typo king, right? So here's the deal. Um, I grew up in the South. In a very conservative family. I was born in Alabama. I lived in Mississippi, Texas. My family's from Georgia and Florida. I have a lot of family in South Carolina. I grew up in a very religiously conservative family, a very socially conservative family. And one of the things that I was always told was that human beings came in two sexes, male and female, and that anybody else who thought anything else was completely wrong, that there were only males and there were females. And my family used to say, well, it's the chromosomes. You're either an XX or an XY. Now, here's the deal. About 10 or 15 years ago, someone educated me and I read a bunch of stuff and I realized that I had sort of a simplified view of what it means, what sexuality is. And so, what I want to do today is I want to tell you that the story is a little more complicated than what people say it is. All right. We don't just have two sexes, there's a variation of sexuality that exists. And transgenderism is really a thing. Now, tonight in class, we're going to talk about whether or not transgender athletes should be allowed to participate in other sports. We're going to talk about when you should talk to your child about their possible transgender experience. Those are all things that we can debate. When do you talk to kids about sexuality? Who gets to participate in female or male sports? Those are questions that are up for debate. But one of the things that I do want to tell you that is not up to date. It is not up for debate as to whether or not people are transgender. That's all I want to say today. Exactly, William. You have a friend who is XY, and there are people who are XYY, and there are people who are X with no Y or X chromosome. So here's the deal. I'm not trying to preach. One of the things that I always hate is this idea that schools are indoctrination centers. I'm not here trying to indoctrinate you into being a liberal or a conservative or a this or that. I'm just telling you what I, as a very as a Southern male coming from a very conservative background, discovered several years ago. What you choose to do with this information is completely up to you, but I do want to tell you what I know so that you can incorporate that into what you're thinking, okay? I promise this is not indoctrination. If you don't like these people and don't want to be around them, that's completely fine. If you don't want to play sports or socialize with people like this, that's completely up to you. But what I want you to know is that this is a thing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what sexuality is. All right, now let's talk a little bit about biological sex. These are the physical characteristics of sex. They are affected by genes and hormone production. Now, what you folks have probably always heard is that the 23rd pair of chromosomes is what we call the sex chromosomes. The other 22 pairs are called autosomes. If you look over to the left side of this screen, what you're going to see is a karyotype or two karyotypes, a karyotype for a male and a karyotype for a female. Now you'll notice that we've got the numbers left to right, top to bottom of these chromosomes, and in the bottom right hand corner of each screen we have the sex chromosomes. You'll notice the person in the top has two X looking chromosomes in the 23rd pair. That person is biologically a female. If you'll look down below, or genetically a female, if you look at the karyotype in the bottom, you'll notice that person has one X chromosome and one smaller Y-looking chromosome. That person is genetically a female, genetically a male. Okay. Now, here's the thing. What I want you to notice, a lot of people say, well, it's your chromosomes. You're either an XX or an XY. What I want you to notice is that those chromosomes are not penises. Okay. That X chromosome is not a vagina. That Y chromosome is not a penis. What those are instructions that can help turn a person into a male or female. Think about this. Genes are not your body. Genes instead are instructions for how to create a body. That's what genes are. Genes create proteins, and proteins create you. So really what we have here, looking at the X and the Y chromosome over here on the and the XX chromosome over here on the karyotypes, is we have potential. We do not have sexuality yet. All you have in your genes is genetic potential. All right. Now, here's the deal. All human beings start out in the womb, all zygotes begin with undifferentiated gonads, okay, which are nothing but reproductive ducts that can potentially turn into testes, or they can turn into ovaries. All right. So all of us, in a sense, are born with these undifferentiated gonads. Now, what happens is your genetic instructions, the XX and the XY uh, chromosome pairs, take those gonads and through a process of chemical reactions and chemical and hormonal releasing, they create gonads, which turn into testes or ovaries. Now, here's the deal. All zygotes begin with undifferentiated gonads and both male and female reproductive ducts. So you guys out there, you started out potentially as a female. But what happened? Well, there's this thing. If you have a Y chromosome, like I have a Y chromosome, on that Y chromosome, you have this thing we call the SRY, the sex determining region of the Y chromosome. Okay? Now, what happens? At the age of 6 to 7 weeks of prenatal development, okay, your SRY is going to begin giving instructions that turn those undifferentiated gonads into testes. If you are a female out there and you had the XX chromosome, you know what? And you don't have the SRY chromosome, these gonads are naturally going to turn into ovaries. So these undifferentiated gonads that we have are primarily female. That's where they want to go. Their natural progression is to go from gonads into ovaries. But for those of us that have the Y chromosome, those gonads instead turn into testes. All right? Now, ovaries and testes are nothing but sex glands. They create hormones. They create two kinds of hormones: testosterone, androgens like testosterone, and estrogens, the major one being estradiol. Okay, now here's the deal. These testes or ovaries produce hormones. And hormones, if you remember from chapter 2, are chemicals that work system wide that cause changes. All right. Now, here's the deal. If you have the SRY gene, it creates testes, which then starts to create testosterone, which causes a cascade of changes that turns you into a biological male. If you don't have the SRY gene and your gonads turn into ovaries, then they begin producing estrogens, which then course through your body and cause a different cascade of changes. Again, X and Y chromosomes aren't your gender. They are simply instructions that cause a cascade of changes that will turn you into a male or female. But just like there are incredible genetic variations for people all around the world, some people turn out to be colorblind, some people turn out to be bald, some people turn out to be albino. Some people may have genetic instructions or chromosome problems that cause parts of their bodies not to develop properly or during in a normal course. There are cascades of changes that have to occur. And just like any other change in human beings, the change into a biological male or a biological female is a multi step process. In fact, I've heard that there are 6 or 7 different genes that are responsible for creating the final cascade that turns you into either a male or a female. Now, any changes or variations along that pathway can cause you not to develop into what we call the prototypical male or prototypical female. All right? Now, these hormone productions that occur in utero help create the primary sex characteristics that we have. Hormone production differences in puberty help mature the primary sex characteristics and lead to the development of secondary sex characteristics. So these hormones that are being produced by your testes or your ovaries are responsible in utero for making either a penis or a vagina grow, which are your primary sex characteristics. And these hormone differences in puberty cause you either to develop breasts in the hourglass shape or to develop armpit hair and to develop the V shape that we typically associate with the male body form. But these things do not have to happen perfectly or according to plan. All right? Now, here's the deal. Primary sex characteristics are the things that are responsible for reproduction. Okay, so your sex organs and your sperm or your egg, those are primary sex characteristics. Okay, your secondary sex characteristics are not related to reproduction. Okay, these are sort of the things that make us either look female or look male. And so these things are like if you look at the picture here, fat on the breast that makes the women grow breasts, the change in the body shape that makes women have the larger hips and the narrower waist. If you look at males here, we get the chest hair, we get the more V-shaped look here. The men are typically going to get hair on the face. These are secondary sex characteristics. Now, one of the things that I want you to know is that all human beings produce both estradiol, the female sex hormone, and testosterone, the male sex hormone. However, if you are a prototypical male, your body is going to produce way more testosterone than it does estradiol. If you are the prototypical female, your body is going to produce way more of estradiol than it does testosterone. But each and every one of us has both testosterone and estradiol coursing through our bodies. Okay? So, you men, no matter how masculine you are, you got estrogen in your body. You females, no matter how feminine you are, you have testosterone cruising through your bodies. But what happens is just about puberty, just about the time that puberty sets in, you have this increase, this great increase in one or the other of these sex hormones. Now, again, the SRY gene causes a cascade, causes you to create either testes, to develop either testes or ovaries, and it causes a cascade of hormone productions that then causes other changes, that causes other changes, that causes you to develop your male or female characteristics. You're born, you develop for 10 or 11 years, and then another cascade of hormone production causes you to develop these secondary characteristics that make you either a male or a female. Now, here's the thing. Here's the part that most people don't understand. Developing your final sexuality that includes your primary and secondary sex characteristics isn't a simple process. It's a very complex process that requires that chemicals are released at the right times, in the right place, in the right amounts. And this is what creates the prototypical male or the prototypical female. But just like every other uh, epigenetic change that occurs in your body, this thing doesn't have to happen according to a planned and proper schedule. There can be variations, and some of these variations lead to differences in our final sexuality. Hold on real quick. I see a couple of comments here. I'm going to take a look at them. William Cray says he had a problem with his pituitary gland. At one point, I was producing more natural estrogen than testosterone. Everything is normal again, but that was a weird time. I'll ask you a question, William. Did it change the way you were thinking? Did you have different thoughts, different feelings in your head? Did you find that things changed? I for one, as a 52-year-old male, one of the things that happens as you get older for males is your testosterone levels slowly drop off. They don't fall off a cliff like they do for females as they go through menopause, but for a male, you have your maximum testosterone in your late 20s, and that testosterone level slowly ebbs over the course of your life. Now, I remember as a 25 and 26-year-old male, all I ever thought about was sex. I thought about sex morning, noon, and night. I don't know if any of you males are like that or are willing to admit that, but all I thought about, right? In the last several years, I found that those thoughts have really decreased, and I'm no longer that guy that thinks about sex all day long. So, and I believe, I can't prove it, but I believe that these hormone changes in my body are not only changing the way my body functions, but they are changing the way my mind thinks. All right. And so, one of the things that I'm going to talk about a little bit later is how your hormone levels may change the way you think and feel. Okay. And yeah, kind of, Persefield says that hormone problems are no joke. You are so right. People don't realize how important the coursing of these hormones through our body are. And they are no joke. They think they can really, really affect the way you feel and the way you think about things. All right. The physical symptoms were so severe. My testosterone level was five, so the physical symptoms were so severe, I mostly noticed those. Okay, very good. But in a sense, what William is suggesting is that what you think of as a biological sex, as an X or a Y chromosome, is really more determined by the level of hormones that are coursing through your body. And the level of hormones that are coursing through your body is something that occurs epigenetically. It's an interaction of your genetics and your environment and the way your environment unfolds. Okay? I promise. Now, so what I want you to understand is that this idea that you have to be either fully male or fully female is a little simplified. It's a little simplified. And I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise, I'm not preaching or lecturing to you. Whether or not you choose to hang around with people because of their sexuality is completely up to you. I'm not telling you you're a good person or a bad person for your beliefs and for how you feel. All I'm telling you is that it's not as simple as being either an X or a Y. Okay? It depends on your genes and it depends upon how the effects that those genes create unfold. Do they unfold in the proper time, in the proper manner? Okay. Yes, William Cray, it's very important how small concentrations of those very small chemicals can have such profound effects on large systems or us. Yes, it is. Again, I'm not trying to get into the debate over who should be swimming or wrestling with who should be using this bathroom or that bathroom. These are all social issues that are up for debate. And as a guy who played sports all of his life, I was always the smallest guy and I was always at a physical disadvantage to other fellows. I am one of those persons that is I'm not so sure that that transgender male to female athletes should necessarily be participating in female athletics because they have extra levels of testosterone. And I appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. But what I want you to understand is that transgender people really do exist because there is no X nor Y. There is instead a continuum, a continuum. Now, most of us find ourselves either mostly male or mostly female. And if you are one of those people, you should count yourself as lucky. I count myself to be completely lucky that I am both genetically and intellectually and physically a male. I am cisgender. I am just that one unit. And life in this America is easier for me. If you are that way, you should consider yourself lucky. However, uh, however, does that amount of testosterone and estrogen have any effect on gender fluidity preference? It may. uh, the hormones and as a cisgender male who has nothing but mostly testosterone coursing through his system, man with many names, I can't tell you exactly how these hormones affect your gender preference, but I would say probably. I would say probably. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Some people, I don't know if you know this, but some people actually have both male and female sex characteristics. They may have what looks like a penis on the inside, and they may actually have ovaries inside. They may have what looks like a vagina on the outside, but they may have gonads that are acting more like testosterone inside. People, these primary sex characteristics, just like your genetic instructions, sometimes cause your arms to develop longer or shorter, your head to develop bigger or smaller. They can cause these primary sex organs to develop in a mismatched ways. Now, somebody mentioned earlier, and I forget who did. Let me see if I can go back and find that. Somebody who mentioned they had a friend that was XXY. William Cray, you have a friend that's XXY. Here's the deal: you can start out with with a chromosomal variation. I don't. We all have heard of trisomy 21, Down syndrome. Some people have three chromosomes in the 21st pair, and it causes them to develop Down syndrome. You know what? You do not, lots of different chromosome pairs may develop three chromosomes or one chromosome. That is not an unheard of thing. So there are actually chromosome variations, if you will. I don't know if any of you folks have ever heard of Turner syndrome. These are females who are genetic females because they have an X chromosome in the 23rd pair, but instead of having another X chromosome or a Y chromosome, they don't have a chromosome in the 23rd pair. They only have 45 and not 46 chromosomes. These people are genetic females, okay? However, because they don't have the second X chromosome, their ovaries do not develop typically, leading to low levels of estrogen and low levels of estrogen. These females are sometimes short. If you see a female who is like 4'5" or 4'6" or 4'7", chances are there's a good chance she may have Turner syndrome. Low levels of estrogen, and there are other effects that go along with Turner syndrome. But the point I want you to understand is that some genetic females only have one X chromosome. As you mentioned earlier, William, you have a friend who has two X chromosomes. This is known as Klinefelter syndrome. These folks have three chromosomes in the 23rd pair, two X's and one Y. Now, these are genetic males that are born with an X chromosome. The crazy thing about these men is that sometimes they don't even know they have this syndrome, and they may not know for their entire life. They may find out as an adult. But these genetic males that are born with an X chromosome will develop some secondary characteristics that maybe make them appear a little more feminine. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a man walking around who maybe looks a little bit feminine, maybe has sort of what appear. You might think, oh, he's just a heavy guy and he's so fat that he's got just these bulging sort of chest, this bulging breast. You might say the fat has just gotten all over this fellow's body. But you know what? This fellow may have Klinefelter syndrome. These people develop breasts. This guy may not ever, he may get married, have a wife, and for some reason they can never have children. He goes to the doctor as an adult to find out, because when parents are trying, when a married couple is trying to have children and they can't, they may go to the doctor to sort of find out what's wrong. Is it low T, low sperm count? Is there something wrong with the female? What's going on? And sometimes gentlemen may find out that they actually have this chromosomal disorder late in life as adults. And so these guys may have low sperm production, sort of big, more fat on their chest, which kind of looks breastish. They may have reduced muscle mass and less facial or body hair. Now, I don't think this is in your textbook, so I don't have it on your notes, but there's actually some males out there that are XYY. They have two Y chromosomes in the 23rd pair. Now, it used to be people thought that guys with two Y chromosomes were more likely to be criminals. Now, research has suggested that men with two Y chromosomes are no more likely to be aggressive or violent or dangerous. However, gentlemen with XYY syndrome turn out to be unusually tall. So you may have a friend who is super tall compared to everybody else in their family, and you may say, wow, where did that height come from? It might come from a chromosome disorder that this person doesn't even know about, right? So to say that, oh, everybody's either XY or XX, that's not even the truth. Some people are X nothing. Some people are XXY. Some people are XYY. So even your chromosomes can start out non-typical, if you will. Now, even if you develop X or Y, if you have the proper X and Y chromosome, those X and Y chromosomes have to fire and develop, cause you to develop in a proper way. Sometimes this doesn't happen. So there's a disorder called congenital hyperplasia. And this is what happens when a genetic female is exposed to a greater level of androgens in utero. So she may have the XX chromosomes that tell her she's going to be a female, but for some reason or another, in the developing fetus, her body may produce too much testosterone. And that testosterone coursing through a developing baby system may cause changes that don't go with the female sex. And so, females with congenital hyperplasia may develop genitals that are not clearly male or female at birth. All right. And this is a genetic female who has a high level of testosterone. All right. That causes changes in her body. Now, this female may be born and socialized and grow up feeling female, but her body, the actual body, may not be clearly female for her. And there are some men who experience androgen insensitivity syndrome. their developing body may be releasing the androgens as they develop, but the cells of their body don't respond to the testosterone released by the testes. It may be another part of a chromosome, 21st, 23rd, 18th, who knows what chromosome pair, but it may cause their body to be insensitive to the release of testosterone. Okay, and so their male primary sex characteristics might not develop. Their body might still go in a female pathway, even though they are genetically male. So, what I want you to know is that the unfolding of your sexual potential starts with two chromosomes, which you may or may not have. And then these chromosomes cause epigenetic changes as you develop in the womb, which leads you to either the prototypical male or prototypical female. But these changes may not go according to plan. Okay? So, again, if you have a problem with people in your bathroom, that's okay. I mean, that's not okay. That's your opinion. If you have a problem with people participating in this sport or that sport, that's okay. That's your opinion. If you have a problem with books about transgender or this or that, these things are open for debate and open for discussion. But what I want you to understand is that the unfolding of biological sex doesn't always happen in a perfect manner, and your X and Y chromosome don't necessarily determine who you are going to be as a male or female. So I just want you to know that transgenderism, that mixed variations in sexuality do occur, all right? Now, here's the deal. Here's the part where we get into what people believe about sexuality and whether or not you're a male or a female. Now, I grew up in the South, man. Uh, when I was born, my dad gave me a ball and he gave me a truck. And he dressed me in blue clothes and he told me to be tough and not to cry. My dad socialized me to believe and think like a male. Now, it turns out that my sexuality fits exactly perfectly with what my dad was trying to teach me. All right. Now, what I do want you to know, and whether or not you believe in gender socialization or you think we ought to make get away from that and try to raise gender-free children, that's a question that's up for debate. And I'm not here to tell you are right or wrong in one of the ways you believe, but it does occur. One of the things that happen as we grow up is people try to teach us how to be a boy or a girl, depending upon what they believe us to be. Now, if you go back to chapter 7, we talk about uh, schemas. We have lots of schemas. A schema is basically a network of associations that we relate to a concept that help us make sense of that concept. Just like there are schemas for fire trucks and circuses, there are schemas for animals, there are schemas for vegetables, there's a schema for gender. And basically, that's a knowledge structure that contains information about the aspects of gender, including social expectations, traits, interests, thoughts, and feelings. What should I like? What should I do? What should I wear? And gender schemas divide the world into two categories, male and female. William says he likes pink shirts now, but when he was a kid, he wouldn't wear pink because it was girly. You know what? It's funny you should mention that, William. Um, I'm a grown man and I still can't wear pink because in my mind it's a female color and I can't put it on. I'm sorry. I play baseball and I hang out on baseball fields and these kids will wear pink uniforms sometimes and I just don't dig it, man. I don't know. It's for me. I'm not into pink. In fact, you'll notice, hey, I didn't do this on purpose, but guess what kind of shirt I'm wearing? I'm wearing a blue shirt. I hear what you're saying, William. And your preference for the color pink or the color blue is socialized. We are taught that boys like blue and girls like pink. There's nothing biological about these colors. There's nothing biological about a boy wanting a truck and a female wanting a baby doll. These are things that we are socialized to like. And I've got a video for those of you who come to class tonight. I've got a video showing you how early that works. So there's nothing biological about liking dolls or pink or blue or anything. In fact, I remember when I was 6, my best friend was a female. I lived up in Frederick, Maryland. And we used to play with her Barbie dolls because she had the killer Barbie doll pad, the Barbie doll house. She had Barbie and Ken, and she had the cool Corvette. And I remember I used to play Barbie dolls all the time with her because nobody had told me that that was a female thing. I just liked playing Barbie dolls. You actually have to sort of, in a sense, learn these roles. All right. Now, whether or not we should socialize kids to be boys or girls, that is completely up to you. And we're going to talk about that tonight. Okay. But one of the things I do want you to know is that we do socialize children to one sex or the other. Is it right? Is it wrong? You decide, but we do. And if you'll notice the quote I've got over here on the side, by the age of 6 months of infants, infants have learned to associate high pitched voice with females and low pitched voices with males. We just do that because it's the experience. Most of the men we hear have a deep voice, and most of the female voices that we hear have high voices. So we learn to associate these voices with either males or females. Just like that, we learn to associate trucks with boys and dollies with females. We learn to associate blue with males and pink with females. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it happens. And these gender schemas may serve as interpretive shortcuts for processing information about people based on their gender. So schemas help us make sense of the world. And just like a schema is a stereotype, okay? A stereotype is just another word, and it's sort of an evaluation. Usually, when we say stereotype, we mean a negative thing. But a stereotype is nothing but a schema. It's a set of expectations. And just like we have schemas for sports athletes, we have gender schemas or gender stereotypes that help us make sense of our male and female word. I noticed that Eli is saying that pink used to be the boys' color and blue was the girls' color at one point. There you go. I didn't know that, Eli. Thank you for sharing. But basically, what I'm trying to say is those aspects of life that we consider male or female are learned. Really, your biology, the hormones that course through you, whether or not your primary or secondary sex characters are male or female, those things are biologically determined. But whether or not you like cooking or riding motorbikes, depends upon how you are socialized when you grow up. And society has found it useful to socialize men to like a certain set of things and to socialize female to like another set of things. I'm going to show you a video of a parent of a couple of parents that decided to socialize their children to have no gender. And I'm not sure that's a good thing to do either. But we're going to talk about that tonight in class, okay? Now, the process of creating somebody to have the beliefs of a male or the beliefs of female, we call gender role socialization. And it's simply the process of enculturating a person to have beliefs and expectations about roles, preferences, and behaviors that are consistent with their sex. So I have been socialized to believe that blue is a boy's color. And when I pick clothes, I pick things that are blue and not pink. I can't tell you why. It was just socialized in my brain. How do we learn these things? Well, if you remember, we talked about this in chapter 6. It was the behaviorism chapter, We learn by watching others. Okay, that's called observational learning. We also all copy our parents. Okay, that's why you want to be careful for the things that you do in front of your little children, because your little children are going to copy the things you do. And you know what? We reinforce people or punish people for holding beliefs that are consistent or inconsistent with their gender. So who knows? Maybe when I was in second grade, my mom put me in a pink shirt and I went to school and all the other boys teased me or punished me. And when I got home that day, I swore to myself, I am never going to wear that pink shirt again because all the other boys made fun of me. I was punished for holding a gender inconsistent attitude. Or maybe when I do things like act aggressively or ride motorbikes, my dad says, "Look at that, he's all boy." And my dad says that with pride. My dad is reinforcing that behavior. So the crazy thing is, we're born with a biological potential in us. This biological potential starts out as X and Y chromosomes, and typically, for the majority of us, it turns out to create in us a male or a typical male or female that has both primary and secondary characteristics associated with their sex. And then we go into a world that socializes us to have beliefs that are consistent with our biological sex. And we are the happy people because we don't have to fit into a world that doesn't want to accept us. We already fit in. Okay? However, sometimes people are trapped in a world that tells them that they have to be and act like something they aren't. Okay? Now, one of the things I did want to point out to you is that this gender role socialization is changing a little bit. Now, I will tell you that fundamentally there is still a lot of gender role socialization that is occurring. However, beliefs have changed in some domains that have allowed females to do things that they weren't allowed to do before. So if you look at this chart underneath me, it follows attitudes about what men and women can do from 1977, when I was an 8-year-old boy, all the way up to the year of 2006. And people used to say that women take care of the home. You know what? We don't have is that sexist belief as much anymore as we used to. Preschoolers suffer if the mom is not in the home. That's a belief that's designed to keep females in the home. Males are better politicians. You know what? I would say that belief still exists. And I would say a lot of people, when females get into politics, I've heard some of my sexist friends say, "Oh my God, they've got that estrogen, their hormones," and they make the joke, "Oh, 1 month a day, 1 week a month, females would be willing to use the nuclear button." You know what I mean? Making this joke that females are somehow emotionally unstable. These beliefs represent socialization, things that we teach our children when they're growing up. I will tell you this: I was over at my dad's house last night. Last night. And my stepmother, my mom died about 14 years ago. My dad remarried. And my stepmother was telling me that she's not good at math. And she was certain that boys are better at math than are females. She told me, she's like, "Oh, it's clear. Boys are better at math than are females." Dude, that's a stereotype. That doesn't exist. Females and males are equal potential when it comes to math. But I will tell you that my stepmother believes that females can't do math. And you know what that's going to cause her to do? That's going to affect the way she functions day to day. That affected the choices that she made in life because she was socialized to have that belief. All right. And so, what I want you to understand is that not only do we have this potential for maleness or females, but society puts these roles on top of the biology that is already there. Okay? Now, the weird thing is that as we grow up, our understanding of gender identity or the feeling that we have of our sex changes and develops. So feeling that I'm a male, feeling that you're a female, feeling that you're transgender develops as you grow up. You know, uh, children understand the labels at 2 or 3, but they're not really constant in understanding how to apply them to boys or girls. Okay, around 3 or 4, children understand that you can only be a boy or a girl. But the crazy thing is, they think that the length of your hair is what determines your sexuality. You're wearing pink, you must be a girl. You're wearing blue, you must be a boy. They understand that people are either boys or girls, but they don't understand exactly uh, what makes people a boy or a girl. And then very early in life, 5 or 6, you begin to understand that boys have certain biological characteristics and girls have certain other biological characteristics. And so this gender identity develops over the first 5 or 6 years of your life. Now, here's the deal. Most of you are going to be lucky enough that your gender identity, your belief about who you are in your head, is going to match your biological sex. I am a cisgender male. Luckily, I am biologically a male and I am mentally a male, okay? Because the hormones that course through my body match my biological sex. And so I feel like a male and my biology says I'm a male. But sometimes people, because of the androgen insensitivity syndrome, because of congenital adrenal hyperplasia, the hormones that course through their body might cause them to feel a certain way that doesn't really match with the biological sex that they have. When this happens, we call these people transgender, and it's a real thing. And I know all my male friends make fun of I identify as a male or I identify as a female. One of my friends actually posted a meme where a fellow was driving a motorcycle saying, my motorcycle identifies as a bicycle and I can win bicycle races, right? You know what? The weird thing is, your thoughts are a part of your sexuality and they don't always have to match your sexuality, right? People who don't are what we call transgender. Some people don't really feel male or female. They may be biologically a male, but they don't feel male or female. Sometimes we call these people gender queer. And this is just a person who doesn't really have the feeling of being one sex or another. And then there's a word we use, androgynous, and this is a person who may be biologically a male or a female, but in their brain they feel both male and female. And all of these outcomes do happen. I promise they do happen. All right. Now, brain scans show that the brain activity of transgender people matches the brain of their gender and not their sex. So there are brain scan differences between males and females. And the crazy thing that you'll find is that when you scan a person's brain, their brain scans will match the way they feel and not necessarily their biology. So for me as a cisgender male, my brain scan is going to match my biological sex. But if you're a transgender person, your brain scan will show your brain's activity matches the gender that you feel and not necessarily the biology that you have. Okay, now here's the deal. Being transgender is not a psychological disorder. You folks may or may not know this, but until 1973, being homosexual was considered a psychological illness. It was considered a psychological illness to be treated and fixed. We now know that some people are gay and some people are straight. Okay, but being transgender is the same thing. It is not necessarily a psychological disorder. However, there are some people that are distressed by being transgender. And we typically, there is a diagnosis for people who are distressed and have problems putting these two parts of their self together. And this is called gender dysphoria. And this is a psych disorder characterized by significant distress regarding the inconsistency between gender identity and sex. Okay? Now, there are variations in sexual disorders. Not all people are attracted to members of the opposite sex. Not all people's sexual preference is limited to one sex. And females tend to show more sex fluidity than males. So here's the deal. I am a completely heterosexual male. You may be a completely heterosexual male or female, but not all people uh, are that way. Some people may be a male and feel sexually attracted to other males. Some people are females and feel attracted to uh, other females. So, sexual orientation is another part of the puzzle. You may be biologically and gender a male, but you may be attracted to other males. So, it's better to think of sexual preferences existing on a continuum as being exposed as being a category. Now, what are the environmental factors associated with sexual orientation? Gender nonconforming behavior as a child. I have an uncle, my dad tells me about my uncle Pat, who is a gay male, and he says that you could see that Pat was a female from the time he was 2 years old. The way he walked, the way he talked, the things that he found interesting. He said it was clear that Uncle Pat was gay at 3 years old. He said he just had total gender nonconforming behavior as a child. Right? Now, here's the thing Pat was raised by good, God fearing Republican Christian parents, conservative Southern parents, and he still turned out to be a gay man. Being raised by a homosexual parents does not increase your likelihood of being homosexual. Your child rearing doesn't really cause you to be male or female. However, you will notice that people who sometimes turn out to be homosexual, you'll see that they have gender non-conforming behavior very early in life. Homosexuality does appear to have a genetic link, and it's stronger for males than for females. As I suggested, exposure to hormones in utero may affect your sexuality. And here's the crazy thing it turns out that males with lots of older brothers are more likely to be gay. And nobody knows exactly why this occurs, but they think this may occur because of the mom's immune system. And there's actually, I talk about this in my developmental psych class, but sometimes if a mother has a baby whose blood type doesn't match with hers, she may be sensitized and have an immune response which hurts further babies when they develop. There's maybe something about the mom's immune system that causes males to develop as homosexual after the first male is born. Nobody knows. And one of the things that we do notice, if you look at male and homosexual and heterosexual brains, you will see that the hypothalamus size and activity is predictive of your sexual orientation. Turns out males have more activity in their hypothalamus than do females, and this is what we think of as a characteristic that defines the sexes. And what you're going to see is that hypothalamus activity in homosexuals is going to match the heterosexual member of the opposite sex. So if I was a gay man, my hypothalamus activity would mirror that of a female rather than a male. Is it true that people on the spectrum are more likely to be asexual? That's a great question. And I haven't heard that, Eli, although I will say that sexuality involves very refined social responses, and people on the spectrum tend to have impaired ability to focus socially. So, although I haven't heard that, Eli, it wouldn't surprise me to find that out. Okay, I am so sorry. I did not mean to go on to 9:58. I'm running about 5 minutes late. Hey, I want to thank you folks for coming in today. And I don't want to, like I said, I didn't want to advocate. I don't want to tell you how you should believe on how people go to the bathrooms or what sports they play in or whether or not you should dress your kid in pink or blue. I just want you to know that transgenderism does exist. It does exist, and you shouldn't be afraid of it, and you shouldn't think that it invalidates you as a cisgender male or a female. Okay? You are still what you are, and it's okay to let them be what they are. Okay, does anybody have any questions before I close out the class? I'm going to wait for just a second. Um, Okay, it's about time for me to get some more coffee. My coffee's gotten cold. Yuck. Okay. All right, well, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and log off now. If you folks have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email or a text. I would be more than happy to answer them. Please come to webinar tonight. I have some really cool videos that I want to show you, and I want to talk a little bit about social attitudes towards sexuality and gender tonight. Okay? If you don't have any questions, take care. I will see you tonight at 8 p.m. Have a great day. Bye.